Today's video topic is why I quit teaching English in Japan. And I know there's like a lot of videos about this online, but every video I think is different, has like a different perspective because everyone's experience is going to be different teaching English. I've been in Japan for 10 years. I also am not making this video to discourage anyone from teaching English in Japan. Everyone has their own standards of what is acceptable and not acceptable. There's always going to be drawbacks to any career that you choose, and you just have to pick whatever you're comfortable with. I don't want to make this video to bash teaching English in Japan. I think it's still a great job for a lot of people. I'm basically someone who went to school to teach, so I always wanted to be a teacher. It wasn't something that I just did because there was no other jobs available for me. So I'm coming from a background of I like teaching and I like children and I like being in a classroom basically, because when I was growing up I felt that school was the only place that I was safe. I felt that my teachers were basically like my second parents to me. I think that school was like my safe space growing up because I didn't feel safe at home. I grew up in an abusive household, and because I have an admiration for teachers, I wanted to do that with my career as well. But I had a lot of setbacks in Japan, and I'm going to talk about all of my experiences teaching English. So first, I guess the most important thing that people want to know is like, why did I even come to Japan in the first place? And in America, I didn't really see like a future because I grew up very poor. I grew up in California, which is like, it's one of the most expensive places to live in America. And I just saw a lot of my friends not really motivated to do something with their lives. And I didn't want to end up basically stuck in the same situation of like working a regular job that doesn't pay well and having to save money to live with roommates for the rest of my life. So I thought the only way I can get out of the situation is if I move far away, somewhere that is safe, somewhere that is cheap to live, and somewhere that I would like the culture. And I think Japan was like a perfect fit for me. I didn't do like a JET program. I think that JET is probably the best way to teach English in Japan. I think it's like the safest, most reliable way. I know people who are in the JET program and they seem to really enjoy working and living in Japan. But in general, the salary for teaching English is very low for like a job that requires a degree. And Tokyo is a very expensive place to live in comparison to the rest of Japan. I'm pretty sure if you taught English somewhere else with the same paycheck, you would probably live a better, more comfortable life. But Tokyo is very expensive, so a lot of people that teach English in Tokyo struggle to survive. They have to work on the side part-time while they teach English if they want to have a family. It's very hard. You can't really see growth in teaching. But that's not really the reason why I quit. It wasn't because of the low salary. It was more with a bunch of different things. I have a list of things. People think that teaching English is just basically speaking English to people, and that is not true. I mean, if you're like an English conversation teacher, then I guess it's kind of like you're just getting paid to speak and to have conversations with people. But in general, if you work for like a school, you have to come up with the classroom materials. You have to grade papers. You have to work overtime outside of the working hours to grade papers, to do parent-teacher conferences and things like that. I think it's pretty much the same level of stress that you would if you probably taught in America. And actually, I think teaching in Japan is probably a lot better than teaching in America, because in America, like, there's A lot of bad things. I feel like people who teach in America are really passionate about being teachers. I mean, there's no other reason why you'd want to do that because you don't get paid a lot and it's very dangerous. There's like a lot of school shootings, and kids are like really mean and disrespectful because they know like teachers can't really do anything about it. They just take advantage of that. Basically, there's like a lot of things that go behind teaching English in Japan. It's not just speaking English. You have to do like a lot of paperwork as well. And if you're doing like parent teacher conferences, like sometimes if you don't speak Japanese well, it's like really hard to communicate with parents. And a lot of the people that complain, I mean, I hear like a lot of complaints from men who are not very animated, or they don't know how to talk to children. So they say they feel like they're performing, like they have to be on all the time. And this is a problem for people who are not like used to dealing with kids. I think that if you're not like used to working with kids and performing and being animated, like these are going to be huge problems for people that want to teach in Japan. I guess the number one thing that people complain about besides the lack of money is the isolation that people feel when they're working in a company with Japanese people. And I think this is a problem for everyone. I don't think it's just like a foreign person problem. Like if you're a Japanese woman and you work for like a trading company or some kind of Japanese company, you're going to get the same kind of treatment because you're a woman. Like people will treat you differently, or they will stereotype you or blame you for things based on whatever difference they point out. So being a woman is different because most of the colleagues will be men. I know a guy who has ADHD and he's on medication for his ADHD, and every time he makes a mistake, his boss will just chalk it up to him having this, he calls a disability. So even a man that I know that I interviewed a few years ago, who is from Okinawa, when he was working for a Japanese company in Japan, if he was late or if he made a mistake, he didn't understand something, they would just say, oh, it's because you're not like real Japanese, you're Okinawan. So if you're different, you're going to always be treated differently, and it happens to Japanese people as well. It's not just foreign people. So this is like something a lot of people have to deal with, is like feeling excluded, feeling like you're treated differently. And it's something you just have to get used to it, especially if you're working with majority Japanese men. So another thing that people don't like, if you're like overworking and stuff, you're gonna get burned out. And I didn't really realize, but I've always been working multiple jobs at once, and I would get burned out. I think a lot of people get burned out right away from having to teach because it's really demanding. In any environment you work in Japan, you're expected to do your best every day. People don't just clock in to get a paycheck. So you have to be on top of your game all the time. And also, like I said, there's not a lot of money. So there's not a lot of growth. Like you can't really go anywhere. You're kind of just stuck being in the same position forever. And people who are ambitious and want to make more money, they probably don't want to do this job forever. And in Japan, if you don't have like a specialized degree for something like engineering, you can't really move out of this space of English teaching or translation work. There are more jobs being available, but they're like baito jobs, so like part-time work jobs that are also low-paying jobs. I don't really meet a lot of foreigners who have different kinds of jobs. Usually they own their own business. They are photographers, they're teachers, like teaching dance, teaching yoga, they're personal trainers. I meet a lot of people who are engineers, people that work for the government or the embassy, people who do part-time jobs like working at the convenience store, being a bartender. Things like this is what I see mostly for foreign people who live in Japan. So it is kind of hard to get a company job unless the company is like a global company. And I think a lot of companies now are seeing like they need to diversify and they need to be more open to hiring foreigners and having like a foreign perspective when doing business. And if you want to compete globally, you have to expand and you have to have different points of views. So yeah, I know I'm like getting off topic, but basically, like, if you don't want to teach English in Japan, you have to like really look hard for a job, and you have to network and meet people that can help you. Because I've been offered a couple of jobs, but it's all been like word of mouth. So I kind of skipped over like all of the jobs that I've done in regards to teaching English. I worked for this English company and they dispatch English teachers, and they also were in the process of creating a study abroad program for people who want to come to Japan and learn Japanese. I was an office worker at that time. I wasn't an English teacher, but this was an English teaching company, and we had a lot of different things going on, a lot of different little businesses in this company. So that was one of the things that we're working on. In this company, I did translation work, and I didn't have a lot of responsibilities at that job. I think I was more of a appearance based hire. Like I made them look more professional because I'm an American person and they're a company that is dispatching English teachers from native speaking countries. So they wanted me to just be in the office and make them look professional. All of my colleagues were Japanese except for one woman who was Latina. I think she was Peruvian. So a lot of Peruvian people have Japanese ancestry. And I think she was originally from Peru, but has like a Japanese grandmother or something. She's able to live in Japan. And she speaks Japanese, she speaks Spanish, she speaks English. She did not get along with the Japanese staff because she was too friendly. They didn't feel like she respected them. Like she was trying to be friends with the Japanese staff, and they felt like she was being disrespectful and not being a professional. And there was a lot of like fighting between her and the staff because she felt hurt. She felt that they were being discriminatory towards her and excluding her from certain things, and they felt that she was not professional. I didn't really have an issue with my Japanese colleagues because I wasn't, at the time I was very antisocial, so I didn't want to be friends with them. And I was very to them it would be professional, to me it would be just cold. Like I kind of saw the way they were treating her and I didn't like it. So I would just talk to them when they spoke to me and when I needed something. I didn't really communicate with them outside of work. If I would see them outside of work, I wouldn't say hi. I just went there, did my stuff, stayed if I needed to stay, and go home when the boss said go home. We had a lot of things that I would consider bad things. So discrimination is not really something that Japan protects people from. And for some reason, they just don't want you, like let's just make up a scenario. If you are a gay person and you're hiding that you're gay, and then you come out as gay, and your boss probably doesn't like gay people, they can quietly let you go, but not actually like let you go. Like when they want to let you go, they'll make you do like busy work, paperwork, stuff that makes you really bored and not productive, and then you end up quitting by yourself because you were like basically being tortured. Basically what I'm trying to say is my boss would not hire English teachers from certain countries. I was told directly, like, do not accept people from these specific countries because of fraud, because of like past bad experiences. I was told to look for people from specific countries that are native English speakers. I was really disgusted and shocked that I mean, you can't really do this in America, and if you do, like, you would get exposed and you would probably lose your company. This was one of the things that made me, like, right away, I'm like, I need to quit this job. Another thing was, I guess I wouldn't say harassment. I think it's called power harassment, where the boss would get upset and scream at the staff. And I feel like I was treated nicer than the Japanese staff. I feel like he was much more hard on them than me. And this caused a lot of issues in the office. So I know the girl who was my senpai, like the person that was working there before me, she was like acting as the office manager even though she wasn't. And she would always be really passive aggressive towards me, and she actually yelled at me once for doing something, and I told the boss what happened because it was in front of customers, and he made her apologize to me. But the boss was basically screaming at people all the time. He was angry all the time. That company was not a good company to work for. At that company, when they were short staffed on teachers, like, they would ask me to teach sometimes. So I was kind of like a substitute teacher. I was dispatched to a factory. Their company paid for them to have English classes. And I also, through them, taught English cooking class, teaching people how to make Mexican food and American food. And I taught their business classes and their English conversation classes. One time they were short staffed on teachers. I had like 10 people in one table just to talk to me, and it was really hard to manage the time because there was so many people, and it was supposed to be one-on-one conversation class, but it was just me and 10 other guys. What I noticed was a lot of the customers were actually men, like older men. I did get harassed by them while working there. I had one time a guy follow me, like he waited for me to finish work, and he approached me and was trying to talk to me. And I've had just like really uncomfortable conversation during my English conversation classes there. I felt probably the most harassed by students there than any other teaching job, and I think it's because I think they felt they were protected since they're paying customers, and I'm supposed to just accept whatever they say. So yeah, that job sucked, and I quit after a year of working there. And then I started working at a private school for teaching children, and this one was like really fun for me. I think this was the best experience I had teaching because it was a small classroom, so there was only about 6 kids, and they were around 7 to 8 years old. And I basically had range of like what I was going to teach. Like, I had to make up my own teaching curriculum and my own program for them. I taught phonics as well, and it was really fun. I really liked working for that school. The owner was really nice. She trusted my judgment. She wasn't micromanaging me. That was like my most fun job, teaching English. The reason I quit that job was mainly because I needed to move. And when I moved, it was just really inconvenient for me to go to work. It was much too long of a commute to go there, and it just didn't make sense for me time-wise and like the money, because you get paid also like the transportation fee, but it wasn't going to cover the amount of time that I was wasting going to work every day. So I just decided to quit that job. I ended up doing a lot of freelance work in between other jobs. So I started teaching English on my own. I was teaching business English, and I was teaching basically the materials that I learned from the first company that I worked for. I was reteaching those to my own students that I was gathering through social media. I used a couple of different websites. There are a few websites online that you can use to get students. Like students will they'll see your resume and they'll contact you and they'll schedule the lesson with you. I used to have the private one-on-one lessons where I would teach the textbook English and like business English, and I made decent money. The only problem is the students treat you differently because you're not working for a company. A lot of the men who wanted me to teach them English at the end of the day were not really interested in English. They wanted me to date them. So eventually, if they kept coming to my classes, after a couple of months or even a couple of years, they would ask me if we can go out, if we can go to dinner, if we can date, if I'll be their girlfriend. I've been offered money in exchange to being someone's girlfriend. I've been propositioned for sex, and it just kind of made me feel icky about teaching English because I felt like I wasn't really taken seriously as a teacher. That was probably one of the main reasons why I stopped teaching English in Japan, was just I felt demoralized, and I couldn't continue to teach English knowing that the people who are paying me to teach them are looking for something else. So yeah, I stopped teaching even though I was making enough money to live. I've applied to a lot of different companies, and I can't name names because I don't want to get sued, but there's a lot of sketchy things that go on. I've also, because I've worked for the English company, I know how much money they charge students, and I know how much money they give back to the teachers, and it's ridiculous the large amount of money that they charge people, and the money that they give to teachers is like very little in comparison to that. I applied to a company one time and I was reading their contract, and it said that if you are late, they subtract money from your paycheck, and that is against the law. They're not allowed to do that. And I mentioned this to the interviewer, who is like the owner, and I was like, this is illegal. You can't really do that. And obviously I didn't get the job, but I just feel like there's a lot of black companies out there who do this, and people accept it and they think it's normal because when you work for a company and they provide your visa for you, you kind of just become dependent on them. So no matter what they do, you have to just accept it, and it sucks for a lot of people. So I think it's something to look out for when you're applying for a job, is like make sure they're not a black company and they're not going to take advantage of you. I think there's still pretty good jobs out there to teach English. You just have to find them. So that is my experience of teaching English in Japan, and why I quit, why I don't teach English now. And will I go back to teaching in the future? I don't think I have the energy to work with children anymore. I honestly am not that passionate about teaching that much anymore, so I don't think I don't have the drive to sacrifice so much time and energy and headspace for teaching English. So yeah, I am working as a bunny, and I am a content creator. I have less pressure to be in a good mood. Like I don't have to be Genki all the time, but there are days where I don't feel like talking. I've learned a couple of things from teaching in Japan, and one of the things that I've learned is patience. I think teaching kids or adults, it is hard to not get upset and to not judge and get annoyed by people, and you kind of learn empathy through teaching. I guess I realized how strong I am because I'm able to endure a lot of stress, and I'm able to push myself, because it does require a sense of leadership to lead a class, to teach people. You have to be secure in yourself, or people are not going to learn, or they're not going to want to learn from you. So my advice for anyone who is interested in teaching English is to do research. Research is really important when applying for a job. Research how to get a visa, contact lawyers, contact people that are professionals in this field. I get a lot of messages of people asking me about how to get a bunny job, how to live in Japan, and I can't answer these questions for you. Like, if you're not willing to go out and do research and put in the time and effort to, like, you're not going to be able to live here. So you have to be serious. You have to buckle down and do the hard work. You also probably need to learn Japanese to teach English. It's not a requirement for a lot of the jobs, but it does help, because a lot of times, and this is something that I've also realized, like learning Japanese, is if the person can't communicate with you in your native language, they can't really explain things to you. So if you need to explain a certain concept or compare something, you can't do that if you don't have basic knowledge of Japanese. And it just helps you be a more effective teacher if you can speak the language. You have to also have realistic expectations. You can't really expect everything to be easy. And like, what I say to people is, like, choose your struggle, because you're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle no matter where you live, what job you choose to do. You just have to choose what is worth struggling for you. And also, if you feel like this job is not for you, then you should walk away. This is the hardest thing for a lot of people to do, is to walk away, because they feel like they're a failure. They feel like they're going to lose something. But once you move on from this thing that's not helping you, it's not adding to your quality of life, you open the door for something new and for a better possibility. But it's a risk, and you have to be willing to take it in order to pursue your happiness and your goals. I think I would still recommend people to come to Japan, and if you want to teach English in Japan, I think you should go for it, just for the experience. I don't really have anything else to add. I will be going into more details about my other jobs in later videos, but for now, I'm done for this video, and I will talk to you girls later.